Join me as we talk all things true crime.
Made contact and shattered.
The missing 4-year-old. The parents have called in and advised that the mother has went through a wall, came home, now they can't find her.
Chad, where are Lori's kids? They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say?
4 were stabbed multiple times and were likely asleep during the attack. Some had defensive wounds.
Most of them had just like one that was the lethal stab wound.
Oh, what a tangled web we weave. Once I told a lie, and I told my family, I had to keep lying.
Rex Heuermann is a demon.
We haven't cleared anybody.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Tonight, we are talking about Rex Heuermann, also known as LISK, also known as Gilgo Beach Killer. And there are new charges that are piled on top of his previous charges, which we haven't really talked about since those occurred, which was around last summer, around this time actually last year. So thank you all for being here. Adrian, Tony, Zoe, Teresa, Lambsbond, 007, good to see you. Pointer Lover, hello. Being Bio Girl, good luck at your surgery. Sherry, good to see you. Christina, is the sound okay? Usually my sound check guy, Johnny, is here usually letting me know it's good. Hi, Sherry. Good to see everybody. So we've got a lot to go through and talk about. So there, obviously were new charges. Let me just read off some of the latest. Accused serial killer Rex Heuermann pleaded not guilty to the new charges, his lawyer said. They include the killings of Jessica Taylor, whose hands and forearms were found along Ocean Parkway years after her torso turned up in Manorville Woods, and Sandra Castilla, who allegedly died a violent death by his hands in November 1993. So that is how far back some of these killings are obviously reaching. He is suspected of killing a 7th woman, Valerie Mack. Prosecutors said no charges have been filed in that case yet. So as we all know, there are other victims, and now they've added more. Now in my opinion, there will probably be even more victims added to his list. It's just absolutely atrocious. So the other victims, as everybody knows, are Maureen Branyard Barnes, Amber Lynn Costello, Melissa Bartholomew, and Megan Waterman. And those were the ones that he was charged with last year. And those were discovered in the missing escort Shannon Gilbert's case, who was found dead in the marsh. Now, they have not tied Shannon's case to Heuermann yet. I believe that she is one of his victims. A lot of people don't. We've gone through very extensive live streams on Shannon Gilbert's case. So if you haven't seen those, check those out. They're on my Gilgo Beach Killer and LISK playlist. Hi, Debbie Fox. Yeah, there's tons more victims. It's just absolutely terrible. It's absolutely horrifying. It's literally what nightmares are made of. So let me just share my screen. Let's see what else. No, not that. So there was a presser today with John Ray, who is a lawyer that has spoken out for Shannon Gilbert's family and a few of the other families tied to all this. And this was also a recent update. They have linked him to a gun club. Hold on, I had an article to read. Maybe I'll just play this instead, and then we'll get to the press conference. So those would be like the updates in everything that happened today. Johnny is in the house serving tea. So glad you have been found and you're okay. Okay, so I'm subbing in for Johnny. Hi, ladies. Miss Bean Bio Girl. Everything will be fine, and he's listening in. So hello, Roxanne. Everyone's here. So thank you guys so much for being here. If you haven't hit the thumbs up, please do so. It's greatly appreciated. All right, so here we go. This is kind of a recent update. Then we'll get into the recent press conference. The photo of him with the hat and holding a Coca-Cola can on the thumbnail is also new.
Welcome back. I'm Christine Johnson.
Good evening once again. I'm Maurice Dubois.
Welcome back. I'm Christine Johnson. Pictures of a younger Rex Heuermann at a gun club are shedding new light on the case.
CBS 2's Carolyn Gussoff spoke with a gun club member who remembers Heuermann as a hulking figure competing in shooting events.
The public's only seen him facing charges as a serial killer in the murder of 6 women. But shooting instructor Ira Rudderman remembers Rex Heuermann as an affable, high-powered gun enthusiast who regularly competed and volunteered as a coach at the Peconic River Sportsman's Club.
You don't miss him in a room. So when it came up on the news, I'm like, oh, he's been at some of our events.
Months ago, police asked for gun club records as they returned to the Manorville woods to re-examine the murders of Jessica Taylor and Valerie Mack. Their dismembered.
These are the faces of the new victims that he has been charged with. We have talked about his love for hunting and guns when they raided his home last year and they found hundreds of guns in his basement. And pretty much the way that he has hunted down his own prey is very much in a hunter's type of scheme. And not only that, but the bodies are wrapped in a camouflage burlap, which hunters use as well.
Bodies were left here 2 decades ago. Gun club records show Heuermann took part in public shooting competitions and courses in the early 2000s in Manorville at the Sportsman's Club.
There it was. He had attended some events. I was kind of surprised that his name popped up as often as it did. I guess it just places him in the area, that he knew the area.
Participating in one event the day before victim Jessica Taylor disappeared. Heuermann's own shorthand, say prosecutors, notes dump sites in this bone-chilling planning document found in his home on an erased hard drive.
It's a tremendous direct piece of evidence for the case.
None of it shocking to Fred Klein, who prosecuted serial killer Joel Rifkin, another Long Islander who changed his MO.
He also would dismember them and dispose of the body parts in different locations. He, eventually learned to dispose of these people in remote areas and various areas. So I think Heuermann is very similar.
Heuermann maintains his innocence. If he's guilty, his family says he was living a double life they knew nothing about. That's a claim that an attorney for some of the victims plans to challenge in a news conference on Thursday. On Long Island, Carolyn Gussoff, CBS 2 News.
All right. And John Ray is the guy that she was just referring to at the end, who is obviously challenging the families being oblivious. So we're going to pull up that live stream that presser that happened today. And then we will pull up some of those, the planning list. Hi, Dustin, and everyone else who's joined. Jesse, good to see you. And then, we will. Hi, Natasha. Good to see you as well. And then we'll go through some other clips of people who worked with him, interviewed him, was, out on a date with him. Just some other stuff that we want to go through from News Nation. They've been putting out a lot of stuff. So let's start with that presser, which is another development that occurred today. Let me just get it to where, come on.
This was going on. Just said in the
Okay, so this is John Ray, and this is his press conference.
Here we go.
This was today.
Good morning, everyone. The first thing is I'd please ask that we're going to make a presentation, and I'll try to speak as loud as I can since we don't have a mic ourselves, and we're live streaming it. So I'll ask that all questions await the end of the presentation. Presentation is going to take a little bit, not as long as you were worried about, but indeed we have some other people here to talk about. With me today, to my right, is Dr. Gary Brucato, who is a clinical and forensic psychologist, researcher, and nationally known author for his work in the areas of violence, including serial killing, especially serial killing, mass murder, and sexual offenses, as well as severe mental illnesses. He's a visiting scholar at Boston College, an expert on the Cold Case Foundation panel. He's worked at Columbia University, the New York State Psychiatric Institute, and he's co-created the Columbia Mass Murder Database, the largest and most definitive study of mass murder ever conducted. He's written nearly 100 articles, peer-reviewed articles, and he's written a well-known book in this field called The New Evil: Understanding the Emergence of Modern Violent Crime. He co-authored that with another doctor. He's presently working in several forensic training programs, and he's a friend of mine, and he's been working with me on this case over the course of approximately a year. So he's here today to do some explaining and connecting of the dots that I'm going to put out there for you with what we have learned, what we have discovered. First, I have nothing but admiration for the work of the District Attorney Ray Tierney and his task force in their use of technology and DNA. But we disagree on two very important subjects: the murder of Shannan Gilbert and the suspicion of culpability of the family of Rex Heuermann. I've been the gatekeeper in this case, or these cases, going all the way back to the end of 2011 until now. And I'm going to continue in that role. And just so it's clear, because we've heard critics, I have not made one penny in this case from anyone, and the man I sued has no money. We will make no money in all the work that I have done from the beginning. We're not in this for the money, and never have been. I'm in pursuit of Shannan Gilbert's killers and the full truth and the facts and circumstances surrounding all of these murders, as I've been from the beginning. I represent that family, the Gilbert family, and I represent several victims, families of Rex Heuermann who survived him and were attacked by him or stalked by him. So I'm not here today, by the way, to just speak about exclusively about Shannan, but I'm here to speak about what we have discovered regarding one of the children and the implications of that for the family. Now, look, if you're of the school that you say all that happened to Shannan Gilbert was a coincidence, all those things were coincidences and circumstantial evidence only, no matter how strong the evidence was or is, you say it's not proof enough to suggest that she was murdered, then you don't stay here. You don't need to, and you don't need to watch this conference on streaming on the internet, because you will be disappointed. Most of the things that we know happened, we know from circumstantial evidence. And what we have here is circumstantial evidence. But if you're able to accept that circumstantial evidence can be strong,
I definitely think that circumstantial evidence can be very strong. I'm curious, for those who know Shannan Gilbert's case, do you believe Rex is tied to it? Just say yes or no in chat. And those on replay, share your thoughts.
As a great lawyer once said, as when you find a trout in the milk. That circumstantial evidence can be filled with right-minded inferences, real inferences, inescapable conclusions. This conference is for you. I'm thinking I had a case with a newly constructed wall which tipped over and broke a worker's legs. And it wasn't hard to believe that the wall was defective, even though nobody saw it tipping. That's circumstantial evidence. That's what we have here. You will see today that Rex Heuermann's porn is matched by his daughter's tastes, his daughter's work. You will see that we are not talking here about, what should I call it? Merely murder. I say it ironically. We're talking about people who are involved and interested in torture, horrifying torture of the people we know are now dead, and many more yet to come. We are talking about the potentiality of cannibalism, hard vor.
I do have to pause it and just warn everybody, this is going to get very atrocious. I know you guys are, you're obviously here because you're into the case and already know that it's terrible, but things are about to get very graphic. So this is your warning. And hello, Fine Summer's Truth and Kathy. Good to see you guys.
We are talking about the use of porno to effect what has happened. So allow me now to pull back the curtain. You know a person by the company he keeps. Do any of us deny that? You know a person by what they read, what they look at, and that's especially today with the internet, the choices they make, of which there are many. You know about people who agree with you, what you say, what you do, who have the same experiences as you have, who have done what you have done. We know you by the friends you keep. We know you by reputation. The things which in essence reflect you and your experiences. Now, this is Victoria Heuermann. All right, we're giving out this is the first packet. There will be two, and all of this will be online as well. So if we run out, forgive me. By the way, the full color ones were extremely expensive, and we have a budget. We say that the evidence we have, and this is just the beginning of the evidence you will see today, the evidence that we have suggests that we've been sold a story by the Heuermann family. Take a look at the first page and the picture that's to the right. That's Victoria Heuermann as she tried to appear to the press when you first confronted her at the home in Massapequa Park. There she is in her little girl's uniform. She's 27 years old with a school bag draped over her, her hair in a nice little bun. Very innocent looking person. The other picture is also Victoria Heuermann, as she really is, as she portrays herself on the internet, as she actually looks. We've been sold a bill of goods. If you look at her artwork, the top page, her artwork consists that she posted online of a human skull. That's just the beginning. After the indictments, oddly enough, and you folks took the picture, you see Victoria Heuermann walking out, I believe from her house. And I thought it was odd when I saw it. But you'll notice she's wearing a shirt that depicts, right after her father is indicted, for these murdered women, it depicts a human skeleton. That's what she's wearing. I'm going to show you what she's looking at on the internet. And please, do not indulge in moral posturing that I am merely shaming her, who is also a victim of sorts. And she is a victim for sure of her family. Don't do that because she's a 27-year-old woman who tore off the cloak of victimhood when she chose to take a handsome profit for herself and for her lawyer from Peacock for openly displaying the pretend picture of this innocent girl, little girl persona who had nothing to do with what went on in that house. She did that at the real victim's expense for a price. She herself marketed her false image. Her true self, a vastly different self, is fair game because of what she's done. What she has witnessed, what she has perhaps gone beyond witnessing, you draw the inference. I'm not going to feed it to you. You draw the inference. Here is my assistant and expert technician, Lena Odgett, who's going to explain to you these posters and how we came to acquire them and how we can be sure they are from the daughter.
Well, that's unsettling, considering everything we know about the victims in this case. What do you guys think? Wow. So I saw this earlier, but I only saw like the last 5 minutes. I missed these depictions. I mean, look at that. And now I went to art school. So when he's talking about, oh, look at this picture of a skull and she's wearing a shirt with a skull on it. Like for me, that doesn't, it's like whatever. But this, I mean, graphic pictures. I mean, that's a torso there. That's an arm being cut. Wow.
So I've introduced Lena, my assistant Nani, and Frances Nakotra, who's a co-administratrix for the estate of Shannon Gilbert and the estate of Mary Gilbert, and has worked with me on these cases for years. Now, Lena's going to talk to you about the technical side of these pictures.
We can be reasonably certain that the Tumblr blog, which is what these pictures come from, that the Tumblr account and blog in question, attached to the username Vinandimadtour, is operated by Victoria Heuermann for various reasons. First, we see from Victoria's LinkedIn her profile picture. This same profile picture is identical to a selfie posted to the Tumblr account. Venand Madtour on June 10th, 2018, posted alongside art signed Victoria Heuermann, 12/1/15, as well as a clay modeling of a human skull. Second, Victoria, on her LinkedIn, links to a now defunct website with the URL www.venandemadtour.art, which presumably once showcased her artwork. You'll notice that this website URL mirrors the username of the Tumblr account and is likely a reference to an Icelandic word or phrase, which I'll talk about later. For reference, Victoria's now deleted Instagram also used this handle username.
So she deleted her Instagram as well. Can somebody please block East Coaster? Their comments in chat are absolutely foul.
The same website is also linked in Victoria's Tumblr's biography. If you navigate to Victoria's Tumblr, you will find a tab to view her posts, as well as a tab to view a list of the accounts she follows on Tumblr. Her posts consist of her artwork, some of which is included in the digital file that I will be sharing with everybody today, and printed for you in the packet we will be circulating. And on her Tumblr profile, a single reblog. A reblog on Tumblr is when one reposts a post from another blog onto one's own blog. This single reblog made by Victoria is from an account which specializes in the production and distribution of illustration furry pornography. The reblog post is of the user, which Victoria follows, advertising where their content can be found beyond Tumblr, right before Tumblr effected a ban on adult content. For those who are unfamiliar, a furry is someone who is an enthusiast for anthropomorphized animal characters, often portrayed in sexualized fashion. A sampling of this person's content can be found on the Twitter account ebchimera_adult. I might add that these images are not for the faint of heart. It is cartoon pornography, but it depicts various grotesque acts of bestiality. That this person produces grotesque cartoon hentai-style pornography is significant, as it is seemingly the only account with which Victoria has engaged publicly, deeming this person's content worthy of a reblog, and that according to the district attorney, Rex Heuermann himself searched specifically for hentai porn, searches which the DA described as sadistic. While Victoria's likes on Tumblr are not available for public review, some counts are, she has chosen not to make hers public. We can look to the list of accounts she follows to inform us as to what kinds of images Victoria is viewing. Upon examination of the roster of accounts Victoria follows on Tumblr, nearly every account is focused on the circulation of furry art and images. Victoria has a preference for furry pornographic material and dark, macabre art.
Okay, so this furry aspect, is this sort of like that scene in The Shining? Remember when he looks at, for those who've seen that movie, he looks in that room and there's that like guy dressed up as like a stuffed animal type thing, and he's to somebody sitting on the bed. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? I've just never heard of this type of pornography. This is like out of anything I've ever thought of or thought existed.
As seen on various accounts, and I'll go into some of these accounts right now. There's Ebony Chimera, a furry porn content creator, NIEH Furry, a furry content and furry porn creator. I guess I should be thankful. a furry porn and furry content creator who links to a fan fiction account of theirs on a website called Archive of Our Own, which publishes explicit content. This person's works and bookmarks displays a preference for fan fiction with the self-described themes of graphic depictions of violence, rape, child abuse, strangulation, underage prostitution, asphyxiation, and rough sex. Squeak Squad 524, a blog which describes itself as an art blog of Yiffertons, Yif and its derivations being slang terms used by furries to refer to pornographic content of anthropomorphic animal characters. Lilera, the account from which most of these images come, and it's an account which circulates disturbing images of gore, violent pornography, and other fetish content. The content creator describes themselves and their blog and their bio as a gore whore, with content warnings, self-described as extreme gore.
Gore whore. Well, that's nice.
Hard vor, violence extreme. Vor being cannibalistic imagery of a victim eaten alive. This is to quote the dictionary, the prey's flesh being ripped, chewed, or bitten, resulting in horrific injuries and often loss of life. According to a translator,
Right? Planet Jace says, I wonder if this poor lady woke up today knowing what her day was going to end up being like this. I can't even. If Rex was a twin, he would have eaten his twin in the womb. And Miss Mother uses the word. Yeah. And this is just unreal. Again, I only caught like the last 5 minutes when I watched it on Duty Ron, and I thought that was enough. It's just, wow, I did not know it was going to be this bad, guys. And yes, sick brains. So are we to just suspect that she came up with these ideas all herself? Or was she influenced at all by her father? I mean, I don't even know what to think. Twisted minds. I can't imagine that she just has this interest without being without any influence. Oh, it gets worse. Great. I'm eating off camera too. Wow.
familiar with Scandinavian languages with whom we consulted, Victoria's account handle Vinan de Madtour may itself be an allusion to eating and consumption, a disturbing reference when considered in the context of the hard vor fetish content Victoria views and follows.
I'm going to take you through a few points. The rest of them speak for themselves. But if you don't mind,
I'm literally having cheese with butter and
there are
pasta.
many pictures besides what I'm showing you that she's looked at that are equally as bad, if not worse. We just thought these.
You're off mic, John.
I'm off mic, so I got the shot.
Or you,
Because I'm gonna have to go to these.
you want to talk on the mic and then explain it? What do you
Wow, hold on.
So I just stay there and point? All right, I'll try.
Yeah, why don't you talk on the mic and say which.
I'm pausing it. I'm pausing it just to kind of see these depictions. I know it's terrible. And this is interesting too, Joanna. She could have found his pea stash, rhymes with corn, when she was young and fell down a rabbit hole. I'm probably being too kind though. I mean, that is definitely a possibility, right? I mean, I feel like all of us have been in an instance where we've, accidentally stumbled on something in our parents' room and been like, oh my gosh, scarred for life. I guess it's totally different when your father is a serial killer. Holy cow. I think she's arrest and interview worthy at this point. This is crazy.
Which picture and then we
All right, fair enough. All right. I have to be able to see them. That's the trouble.
Do you want me to bring them to you?
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. The hanging one.
You can hold them right behind them.
Right there. Thank you. That's a good idea. Thanks. We chose these pictures because of the significance in relation to Rex Heuermann, as well as his daughter, Victoria. Take a look. It's people hanging. That's what she's looking at. But look particularly at this particular person hanging. There's a shoe missing. Sandra Castilla was found with a shoe missing. This seems to be a fetish that was indulged in by Rex Heuermann, a fetish that is depicted and looked at by his daughter. That's a connection.
I agree, Jesse. I totally agree.
Perhaps this is a stretch and perhaps not, but look at the hairstyle and consider Rex Heuermann's hairstyle. But this is a picture of a person who's hung.
What the heck?
Remember that Rex Heuermann is using points to hang people.
Okay, and not only that, I'm sure he's going to get to it, but they were talking about how some of the victims' nipples were mutilated.
This person is hung and disemboweled with a knife that's in the picture. Yep. This appears to be the remains of a human being that looks half-eaten. Remember that Victoria Heuermann is on the internet reading words and looking at pictures that deal with hard vor. That is to say, cannibalism. If you look at the full color packet I gave you, there are other pictures in there that are so atrocious we didn't even put them up. Worse than what you see. Of people eating human flesh.
Wow. Wow, wow.
In this picture, if you look, it has a strange familiarity when you see it because the torso shows that the arm is chopped off at the elbow. And the head is, of course, disconnected as well.
And remember what I had read at the beginning about the new victims before he continues, just a little bit talking about arms and limbs being found separate from their torsos. Jessica Taylor was decapitated. Like I said, her body was mutilated. He would take off their tattoos to conceal their identity. Wow. And then what do you know? He also wrote in that bail information that we're going to look at to remove their head and hands. Unbelievable. Hold on, I'm trying to find the specifics. Sorry guys, I read it earlier, but pretty much it was just talking about, yeah, so they were, you know, their arms and limbs were found separate. And then we got this picture here. I'm just like, holy cow.
and the body is being cut up into pieces, the hands, and so on. Who does that match? Jessica Taylor? Valerie Mack? Entire slicing up as if it were for food.
So she helped him, Deco says. I don't know. But this is all too close to what was actually going on with these victims. I can't either. I can't even.
This is a picture of a female human body, completely disemboweled in the front,
She's
with her
27.
entrails hanging over her vagina and her legs chopped off. Some of the things that she was reading about, which I'm going to put before you in a moment, some of the things she's reading about was how when these bodies were disemboweled and cut up, the torturer would have sex with the openings, such as in the leg. That's what she's reading about. And then, yep. This is very interesting. Here is a woman. There is a woman who's completely garroted by the horns of a deer head, which is a favorite theme in this picture she's looking at. Deer, they have to do with witchcraft. And you can see what's happened to the woman. But notice, there's a marsh in the background, and this woman is laying on her back. Just a
Okay, so yeah, that the fact that there's a marsh in the background, I mean, that is where these victims are found. Those are the dumping site. That's what the landscape looks like at the dumping sites.
Shannon Gilbert was found. Make of that what you will.
Yes, stay true.
In your packet.
I love season 1.
The picture there is actually artwork produced by Victoria. If you look, there's this horrifying monster with blood eating on the breasts of this woman who has a furry butt plug hanging out the back. She produced this art.
It's literally not even art, in my opinion, and I'm an artist.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, Dr. Gary's there.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I know, Johnny. You came back just in time for this one.
You'll notice in one of the other pictures, there's a room that looks like a basement with blood all over. Sound familiar? Does it match Massapequa Park? Quite possibly. Sorry? It's hard to repeat. I'm doing it by... This is a picture of what appears to be a basement with blood all over it. Remind you of the basement in Massapequa Park? I won't show them all. I don't need to. Body of a man with the arms and legs sliced off and chopped in half. Interesting. Take a look at the neck of this person being chopped up. The neck is not just pierced, it's cut open. Think about and Gilbert and her hyoid bone. Here's what she's reading. Don't be.
Scout says the family must have known, in my opinion. How could they not have had some inclination with all this? Curious what chat is thinking at this point. Do you believe the family was in the know of things? It's already been speculated that the wife was. And all this stuff that has kind of linked the wife has come out from John Ray.
He's scared because I said I wanted to crack open your chest and play in your blood. I'm not a scary person. Murder is very romantic. By the way, remember, her father is looking at the same items. If you don't learn how to pull hair properly, you can easily snap someone's neck. If your communication and self-insight isn't on fucking point, dark kinks easily just become self-harm or abuse. If you tie the rope without EMT shears in reach, you're trying irresponsibly. If you're playing with drowning or waterboarding, a 2-second fuck up can kill. The cannibal picture. Here they are feasting on human flesh. And there's the human flesh being taken apart for food. Reading. It's entitled Brutalized, brackets, Hot Sexy. Being drowned in a bathtub, bonus points if it's full blood. Throat bit and crushed in someone's teeth. Arms skinned and someone pulling on your tendons to force your fingers to move. Hands being stepped on and broken. Making out with mouths full of blood. Bonus points if it's your blood and you're forced to drink it. Stabbed while in a crushing embrace that starts to break your ribs. Wrapped in electric barbed wire. High-powered shock collar and muzzle. Sedation. Enough to be in a dreamy haze while you're taken apart. Blindfolded, muzzle tied down while someone cuts you open and plays with your organs. Arms strapped down, multiple needles left in, full of drugs, while your killer explains the plans for your tonight as they prepare your body. Punched in the mouth, bruises, body cut up, played with, and left broken to die. And then the instruments. Just like the instruments described in what the district attorney released of Mr. Heuermann's work. These are posts that she repost these? These are the posts, circulated by blogs that she follows. Listen, yes, it's technically illegal to keep a person chained to the wall in your basement. Use their holes, H-O-L-E-S, holes, whenever you please, and treat them as nothing but an object for your pleasure. But you're not a person, so what's the problem? These are sex toys. These are for sex, a bone saw. He had a collection of these items or similar items. chains with points, hard points. He used hard points. He refers to it. The inside of my brain looks like this: a basement with a bed and blood all over it. Massapequa Park.
Now he says Massapequa Park because that's where they live. Why would the inside of her brain look like the crime scene for so many of her father's victims?
Now take those things that I've just shown you, and let me read you this first, and then I have something else I want to tell you.
I'm pausing it because I love John Ray's little scrunchie in his hair.
These are quotes from what she's reading, okay? By the way, we don't have more than what I'm showing you for one very good reason. We have found that it appears that she erased all of her sites that she had, all of her social media. She just missed these ones. And her mother, we try to get her mother's similarly, all erased, except for Twitter. Now, the district attorney himself makes a list in his latest indictment papers of what Rex Heuermann is looking at. And amongst them, there are 26 of them that he lists, but I'll just hit some that matter in relation to these photos and what was said on the blogs that she was looking at. Quote, girl begging for rape porn. Teen girl begging for rape porn. Pretty girl with bruised face porn. Remember the picture of the bruised face woman or girl in his house. Torture redhead porn. She's a redhead, the daughter. 10-year-old school girl. Lips cut off. Skinny redhead tied up and raped. Girl hog-tied torture porn. Match what you heard there with what you've seen here and heard from what she said. And they're almost the same, or they are the same. Mr. Tierney says, newly discovered searches include, these are the films he's looking at, or that Heuermann's looking at. Hung by tits. Ball gag. And we have pictures that she was looking at of ball gags with blood all over the face of the person who has it. They were both interested in ball gags. Medieval torture of women speaks for itself. Long Island mistress BDSM. We also know all these pictures speaks for themselves as BDSM, and we know that Heuermann spent time, we know now, in Manhattan clubs in BDSM situations. For example, a place called Pandora's Box. When you take all of these things collectively, are you going to be able to reasonably say, well, just circumstantial evidence? Who knows whether the mother really knew what was going on in the house? Who knows whether Mr. Heuermann had anything to do with what happened to his daughter? You can take one inference is that this poor girl was brought up in this sickness. And don't think for 1 minute, from what you now know, that Rex Heuermann was cutting people up, removing their hands and heads and so on, just so that he could avoid identification. That isn't even true. We know he left the tattoos on, he sliced them up. He knew very well he could have just cut them off, and he didn't. He's not caring too much about identification, although he is that too. He's enjoying what he's doing. Look at what he is reading, what his daughter is reading, what they're observing. It's BDSM to the max. and it's demonic. How else do you describe it? This house, are you surprised at the way it looked? It matches the demonic life that they're living there. Why do you think they haven't left after they know that murdered bodies were in that home? There's much more to be said on that. I say to you, you draw the inferences. You draw the inferences. But how can you escape some meaning to what we have discovered? How can you escape it? As I said, you can tell from this, we're the gatekeepers. We're in pursuit of the killers. We know from one witness that I've already produced to the district attorney's office, who was vetted by Commissioner Rodney Harrison, police commissioner, and found to be credible. We know that Shannon Gilbert was in the Sayville Motor Lodge with Rex Heuermann. There's a connection between her and him. We know something that has never to this day been addressed by the Heuermann family lawyers, nor for that matter by the district attorney. And that is that I was able in January to check out the alibi that Mrs. Heuermann and children were in Atlantic City when Maureen Brainerd Barnes disappeared in July of 2007. We talked to the night manager, and I say we, myself and 3 witnesses who are present here today, 3 eyewitnesses. We spoke to the night manager for that hotel, and we checked out whether or not the Heuermann family had checked in when they would have had the alibi. They did not. They checked in not on July 6th. They checked in on July 17th. And she read it to us off the computer that she had in front of her twice. And I brought this up, and you heard the lawyers, Mr. Matev and Mr. Macedonio, say, John Ray's a liar, and they'll prove it. That was 200 and some, how many days ago now? Since January? You never heard another word from them, did you? And I'm awaiting the district attorneys look into that. We're the gatekeepers. For all the facts and circumstances. And remember what the commissioner of Suffolk County Police Department said. If you don't want to talk to the police for any reason, call John Ray. I'm operating under that official blessing, and I'm not giving up, and you can see why. These people are in our society. They're cannibals. They're monsters. They're human devils. They're evil. The Heuermanns are part of that package. Now, with me, now, I mentioned Dr. Brucato, who's here to address some of the things that I have just now mentioned. Gary?
First of all, is everyone hearing me all right? Yes, everyone hearing me well? Yes. First of all, thank you to Mr. Ray and his team and to all of you. And I'll begin.
I do want to hear Dr. Gary Brigada because I like listening to him. He's been on the interview room. He's been on court TV. Just really, really knowledgeable and a fascinating person. Hello, Alex Erickson. Good to see you. So glad you popped in. You came in at the good part because everything before you popped in is just, if you ate recently, you would lose your dinner pretty much.
My comments by saying that it is important that we dedicate everything we're doing today to the victims. I think it's very important to do that, to remember that we're not interested in the titillating details of what an offender has done as much as trying to prevent those horrible things from happening in the future by understanding these people. I think it's also important to mention that I have not examined Mr. Heuermann, his daughter, his wife, or any other member of the family. And the comments I'm going to make are general about the trends in these kinds of offenders and what we might be able to gauge about someone who may be potentially joining the ranks of that type of individual here. First of all, when people are charged with offenses, repeat murder, you don't get hauled into court, under a charge of serial killing, right? But it is important to understand when there is a pattern of serial killing that is alleged, we can learn a great deal about what the likely motive is of the individual and understand a lot about the individual's psychology. The vast majority of people who meet criteria for serial killing are sexually motivated. And I want you to understand that we have to envision a circle in which there are individuals that repetitively commit sexual assault against other individuals, but don't kill. Within that circle is a smaller group of individuals who are sadistic toward the individuals that they're assaulting, brutalizing them in every imaginable way, but do not kill them. Within that circle is a smaller group that proceed to actually kill the individuals, sometimes to get rid of witnesses, sometimes because the force is too much and someone passes away, and sometimes because this now becomes part of the thrill. But within that circle is the rarest of all, which is a sexually sadistic serial killer who kills after protracted, prolonged torture in every imaginable way. And it is in that tiny circle that we would be placing Mr. Heuermann if he is indeed guilty. It is important to understand that individuals like that are motivated partially by sadism and partially by a kind of intellectual boredom, a stimulation. People of that type, for example, can look at all kinds of things and collect all kinds of things and do all kinds of things to keep it interesting for themselves. And as a consequence, evolve and do all manner of things to their victims to learn about what happens to bodies, to see what causes the greatest thrill. Now, regarding the things that have been spoken about today, it is important to understand that about 80%, it is estimated, of serial killers operate alone. But that leaves, by some estimates, 20% that do operate with other people. Though it can be a group of people that are all interested in the same perversions. That can be a wife or a partner, significant other. That can be one's own child. In that small circle of cases, which incidentally do not include any in the state of New York that I'm aware of prior to this, where an individual actually has what may be a torture chamber or an isolated place where individuals are brought. For example, you remember from the document reference to hard points. Hard points are those little screws that you hang a variety of tools on, like in a garage. You have to imagine a situation in which a woman would be knocked out and wake up in that kind of chamber with all those instruments around her to be used like a kid in a candy box for sadism and experimentation repetitively. And you have to imagine the potential that that's inside a soundproofed room in one's own home. The rarity of that cannot be emphasized enough. Now, some cases that might be instructive for people to look into, the most important, I think, being the case of David Parker Ray, the sexually sadistic serial killer who had a $100,000 torture chamber soundproofed inside a trailer where women were brought by his own daughter sometimes after she had knocked them out for participation in perversions. Another case you may want to look at is the case of John Wayne Gacy, the sexually sadistic serial killer of boys and young men, because until recently it was thought that he was a lone wolf.
I will say until Rex Heuermann hit the news and came out as Long Island serial killer, I feel like out of all the serial killers, John Wayne Gacy was my number one. Like, he's the scariest. But now I feel like Rex has taken the number one spot.
And some evidence has emerged more recently that he may have been part of a network that was feeding victims to him. And there are many serial killers of that type, we are learning. There is a tendency to think that these types are lone wolves who can't have relationships with others or engage in crimes with other people. Regarding the things that were spoken about today, as a psychologist, I think it would be important for me to emphasize that we have no clear accusations or proof one way or the other, but there are certainly suggestions that I think must be taken seriously, and there would be precedent for this kind of thing based on other cases. Approximately 1 in 5, according to some experts, of these serial killers do operate that way with other people. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I'll also say at the end, I'll also like to take a very quick moment to say that I am a member of the Cold Case Foundation on the expert panel. I'll clarify, because I know some people are aware of the name of John Douglas coming up in the bail document as the author of 2 of the books studied allegedly by Heuermann. He is the chairman emeritus of the Cold Case Foundation, which is a group of experts that offers help, assistance to law enforcement, to individuals that petition, families that petition to help solve cold cases. I am sure, given that the average age of onset for people who commit these offenses is about 26, and they don't tend to stop until eliminated or arrested, you can imagine that it would be very improbable that there are only 6 victims in this case. And you can imagine that these individuals would have been kept for some time prior to their killing. I am sure that there are loads of people out there, probably in multiple states, who have encountered this individual, who have potentially escaped this individual, who may have actually been assaulted by the individual or engaged in perverse actions, or may have information on homicides that might in the future be alleged. I would encourage you to please be unafraid to consider prayerfully, thoughtfully reaching out to a group like the Cold Case Foundation, to someone like Mr. Ray, to law enforcement, because when this story is all over, I suspect it will be much more complicated and horrifying than it even appears to be now. Thank you.
What's that? One more.
Please.
We'll do it. Okay. Just keep in mind one or two more things. In the packet that I gave you, the first packet, the black and white, the pictures on the back and are pictures from the book that was on the kitchen table when the police entered in the last warrant, and when Victoria was home alone. That book speaks of death scenes, and those are real gore, real pictures of sex workers chopped up. That's what she had on her kitchen table, and her lawyers say they don't know how to explain it. That's
I
in this
agree,
too.
Bubba.
And
100%.
one more thing, and that is that after this, can anybody reasonably infer, as we've heard over and over again to the contrary, can anybody reasonably now infer that this man was leading a double life at home? There was no double life. Now we'll answer questions.
So is it likely that he essentially psychologically trained his daughter to become a serial killer? If that in the realm of possibility?
I can't speak to this particular case because I have not examined anyone involved. And so far, what we have here is circumstantial things that are certainly worth contemplating. I'll say this: among the individuals that do participate with serial killer family members or friends or associates, they seem to divide up into different groups. Some of them have their own perversions and are collaborating because they, in a group, are able to enjoy these things together. And some of them are individuals who have been traumatized or exposed repetitively to these kinds of things and are joining in with the offender, sometimes as a kind of Stockholm syndrome or attempt to survive, sometimes because it's been so desensitized for them that it's become normal in the home or environment in which they're operating. And sometimes there's no relation, that they just are interested in these kinds of unusual things on their own. But you have to take that on a case-by-case basis. And I think it's certainly worth thinking about, because I think we'd agree that what we're seeing here is certainly disturbing.
In his manifest, he used the term play, and apparently Victoria used the same terminology.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of that?
Well, it gets to the point that I raised earlier about a lot of this being about stimulation and excitement and fun for these individuals. And the idea is to extend, in the fantasy at least, to extend what is happening to the individual out of a kind of curiosity and amusement, and to keep heightening the thrill the way somebody, for instance, with a drug addiction might do, to need a greater and greater high. And some people can have fantasies like that and leave them at the level of fantasy. And some individuals need to actually spill over into enacting those fantasies. But it's impossible to say, how many people have only the fantasies and how many actually spill over. But fantasies are certainly disturbing. Sorry.
Share those fantasies
Well, first of all, there are some situations I'm aware of where that happens, where, as I said, there is normalization within a home to the point that that can happen. But the themes that are here are extreme, even for people who have sexualized or aggressive fantasies, because we're seeing here themes of things like cannibalization, fornication with body parts, dismemberment, mutilation, things like that. It's not just bondage fantasies. It extends all the way over into things that are far more horrifying. And for those things to be normalized, you would have to think about the kind of material a person is exposed to, the kind of pornography they might be exposed to, the kind of talk, books, etc. But I think the jury is out on what this is about. But it's certainly worth thinking about.
John, I apologize. This is obviously very disturbing to all of us, but she's still young. Do you think she was involved in any of the murders, like the Gilgo store, like helped him at all, or are you just saying that she may have been doing something, thinking about it in the future? That's what I'm thinking.
I am not there. I was never there. The police alone have been there in Massapequa Park House. I don't know what else they know. What I'm saying we can infer from this, and it's not the only inference, but it's a very strong inference, is that this girl was made over the course of years somehow to become accustomed to liking what you see here. And that didn't just happen in the air. That happened because somebody did something. And, you can take it from there, take the rest from there. That's what I'm saying. She certainly falls within the circle of suspicion as to some activity that's involved here, not least because we know that her hairs are found on the dead bodies.
There was no double life like you.
So yeah, earlier Planet Jace, you said if the wife and daughter are both in on it, this would be a first and would be really unique. Yes. And like John, I was going to say exactly what John Ray said. Like they did find the wife's hair on some of the victims. Now, the cops have referred to it as just transfer DNA, like just being in the area. Like you guys might have your significant other's hair, on your shirt or in your car just because you guys coexist. But can we really say 100% that that's why those hairs are there?
Are there civil legal ramifications?
There certainly could be civil legal ramifications for the Heuermann family, each of them. They're pretty extensive, I imagine. I'm not looking to pursue them myself. I'm not looking to sue them or have a civil case against them. It's nothing to do with me. But there could very well be, yes.
John, are you saying that you believe that Shannon Gilbert was the victim of Heuermann?
I'm not saying that Shannon Gilbert was certainly a victim of Heuermann. I am saying what we do know. And we know if that witness who was credible told the truth, the taxi driver,
okay,
that
thank you.
Heuermann knew Shannon Gilbert. And that makes a lot of sense. If we follow the trail of Heuermann, I know that Heuermann was a very gregarious fellow from the witnesses I've talked to who've come and talked to me and given me statements. And I know that he spent a lot of time in various bars and places where there were strippers and dancers and that sort of thing around Long Island and in New York City. The chances that he came across Shannon Gilbert, besides what the taxi cab driver said, are excellent. She also has a Massapequa entry in her book that we found, her notebook of scheduling. And I point out another thing. That doesn't preclude anything I've said so far regarding my lawsuit that's continuing as we speak. There's connections that could be made there. We don't know. I'm not the police. If they come to me, I'll certainly report them. But it does strike me that when Shannon Gilbert says, the first thing she says on the 911 tapes is, someone is after me. Someone is after me. That means she's being chased. She's being stalked. Rex Heuermann was a stalker. You may remember from the beginning, before I even knew of Rex Heuermann, I said publicly over and over, there's a hunter involved in this case. Someone was hunting her. He's a hunter. Rex Heuermann turns out to be a very avid hunter. And he belonged to a variety of rifle clubs. We saw a picture, I think, Newsday published. But there's more than that. If you look at the schedule that Ray Tierney put out, you can see that Heuermann, in a period of 2 weeks, was at 3 different hunt clubs. He's a real hunter. He's got 300 guns to do that. I have 3 eyewitnesses who say that he pulled pistols on them. One who says that he shot her right across the back of the neck. He's a hunter with guns. Who knows what else? Start to put those pieces together.
The DA said that the hairs found that matched Victoria's were transferred from Rex to the victims.
I don't think the DA said that the hairs were actually transferred. He speculated that they were transferred. The hairs transferred from Rex Heuermann to the body that belonged, the hairs that belonged to the daughter and the mother. He's speculating at that. He has no way of knowing that for certain. But now, when you consider what you've seen and what you know, that might tip the card a little bit in favor of the fact that there might be more to it than just that they fell off of Heuermann. Especially when you notice from the equipment that he took was designed, part of it, to clean up the hairs, and he even said so, and to wear a hairnet.
John, a lot of this art is disturbingly similar to the Gilgo victims, but as far as we can see, none of it was actually made by Victoria Heuermann. Did you look into who the creators of this art might have been?
Yeah, we know that they create this atrocious art for a living, but you're not quite right. Take a look at what I showed you earlier. She created the monster that's eating a woman's breasts with a furry butt plug in the picture. She created that, and that was in line with everything else. So I can't agree with you there. She's in this art. I cannot hear you, Danielle. What I did was, with this particular information, I notified Ray Tierney. I wrote him a letter, invited his detectives to come here if he wished to the press conference, and invited him to call me so I could do so. I have not heard from him. So we're just going forward with what we have. I at every step of the way in this case, I have cooperated with the authorities. I have given them what I'm entitled to give from other witnesses. The witnesses who come to me, if they don't want their information turned over to the police, I don't do it. But if they give me permission, I always do it. I believe that the proper authority for properly investigating this and getting to the truth is the task force. We good?
So, right, you said countless times that all this is for justice for victims. How is showing these images, to sum it up, justice for the victims?
Showing these images teaches us that there is a likely connection between Rex Heuermann and his family in these crimes that have been committed, and that the truth is going to reveal that. We don't know how far those connections reach. We do know if they do reach through the family, number one, he's not isolated. He's not acting alone. Number two, therefore, he is not, as I said before, living 2 lives. But number three, we should start to look at his wife, his daughter, where they went, who they met with. Things, it opens up at this door. I have information. I know where his wife went sometimes. So that whole door is now opened. And there's one inference from at least some of the witchcraft things she talked about in her paperwork and so on. There's an inference, it's one inference of many, that there's more than just them, that they're involved with other people in this as well. That needs to be looked at. These people didn't tell the truth. They're misleading us.
John, I have a question. So basically, this portrait was created by Victoria. Of all that you've shown us, this is the one she created. Is that correct?
Yeah, the picture of the monster and the woman that I mentioned is created by Victoria. Everything else she erased. We don't know what else there is, but we do know that.
So was this found in the house and taken out by detectives?
I don't believe it was found in the house, but I don't have their inventory. I don't know. But that's on, we connected it, as Lena has told you and explained to you, and we've given you that explanation in detail for your use because I know it was highly technical. You can see that she can connect that with the other things that Victoria was looking at.
Are you sure she created it and not just posted it?
Her signature actually appears on it.
Doc,
Okay.
can you just say and spell your name?
Yeah, sure. I'm John Ray, Johnray. Now the doctor?
Dr. Gary.
All right, so it looks like that pretty much was the end of that. What I want to pull up now is the bail application. We're obviously not going to go through this whole thing. It's pages on pages. And I know other channels have gone through it very thoroughly. But this is sort of his, checklist, stuff listed on there, like headings of problems, supplies, dump sites, and this is what he has as, problems: DNA, tire marks, bloodstains, fingerprints, plastic bag, cat litter, witness, trace source of supplies, foot shoe prints, photos, misleaders, police stop. Yeah, police stop would not be good if you have a dead body in the back. Truck stuck. Yeah, if this truck got stuck in the mud. Fingerprints in gloves, plastic bags matched to box, hair and fiber. And what do you know? Hair and fibers were actually some of the things that linked him to these victims. Supplies, booties, lye and acid, police scanner, rope, cord, saw, cutting tools, hair nets, photo film, burn can, foam drain cleaner, body wash wipes, tarps, drop clothes, medical gloves, bags, tape, large electric, clips, ratchet, cargo straps. And then there's this other information. Some other things I would just read out loud. This is just his area that has, it says the category, 3 categories section with the headings: pre-prep, prep, and post-event. So he's, telling himself, destroy the file, change your tires, burn the gloves, dispose of pics, have story set up the stage, holding area, build table, crossbar, hard point, and more. Take down and pick up, hunt too long, seen in area too long. So these are things that he knows to avoid. Remember, don't charge gas. So don't get gas on a credit card. Recon for video cameras and pickup area next time. Body prep, wash body inside, all cavities, remove trace evidence, fingerprints and hair, remove trace DNA, remove ID marks, tattoos, marks, remove marks from torture, remove head and hands, package for transport. And this is all stuff that they found on a deleted hard drive. So if you think that you're good, same with Stephen Stearns and Madeline Soto's case, you think you're good setting your phone to factory reset, they can pull this stuff up. They absolutely can pull things up. Deleted hard drives, you're not getting away with things even after you delete them. Tools and devices, dispose of the following: clothes and other personal items, drop clothes, wipes and towels, props, toys, wood items, anything that touched, what you wore, destroy book and computer files, burn gloves, dispose of box of plastic bags to avoid trace. So again, things to remember: sound travels. Example, birds outside. Control the amount of air in and out of the control in that noise made. Get sleep before hunt. Too tired creates problems. Hit harder. Too many hit to take down. Consider a hit to the face or the neck next time for takedown. More sleep and noise control equals more playtime. Use push pins to hang drop clothes from ceiling, not tape. Use heavy rope for neck light rope broke under stress of being tightened. It's just unbelievable, guys. Everything here mixed in with everything we just heard in that presser. I can't even read more of it. There was a lot of videos I wanted to go through. I don't want to be on too long. We are almost at an hour and a half. Trying to think, who do you guys want to hear from? The girl who we've heard from before, who went out on a date with him, the escort, or do you want to hear from, who else do I have? A neighbor of his. So Rex's neighbor, the escort. Who else do I have lined up? Somebody who interviewed him. So you guys, I don't know if you remember that one interview with him when he's talking about architect and former colleagues. Who should we play? You guys let me know. So the escort, former colleagues, the guy that interviewed him, his neighbor. Kind of want to hear from the neighbor. You guys good with the neighbor? Okay. Day Tripper said neighbor too. Neighbor. Okay, guys. So let's listen to Ashley Banfield, and she speaks to the neighbor.
Next guest was a neighbor of the Heuermann family who had his own run-ins. My next guest was a neighbor of the Heuermann family who had his own run-ins with a man who would later become an alleged serial killer. Jimmy Mack, welcome so much. This is great to have you because very few of us can understand anything except what we're seeing on paper, but you know the man. Tell me about this really bizarre encounter you had. He freaked out about your car being parked, and it's parked in your own driveway, as I recall.
Yeah, so I live kind of like right by the train station where he lived. So I guess I'm 2 blocks over and 2 blocks down from him, right by the train station. So I just happened to be sitting on my porch the night we had the incident, and I could hear him talking on the corner. He was saying something about, here we go again. He had mentioned something about the girls, which kind of caught my attention, but people walk by there all the time. They're on their phone, so I'm not really thinking about it. About a minute later, I still hear him talking, but he's like directly in front of my house. So now when I stand up on the porch, he's looking directly at my house. So I don't think he expected me to be there. And I certainly didn't expect him to be like looking at my house. So that's when I said, I'm like, are you talking to me? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I warned the girls about the call one time. He goes, now you're going to I'll be back. And now you're going to understand.
Warned the girls? What does that mean? I've warned the girls about the car.
Well, later on, we found out looking back, I guess maybe like 2 weeks before that, my ex's husband had dropped off the daughter and he was kind of sticking out. The car was like where the walkway is, so he had to walk around the car. So apparently there was an incident like 2 weeks before that. Not a big deal. Nothing happened of it. But I guess looking back, that's what we think it was. Well, the problem was when he said, oh no, I'm going to handle it and I'll be back. He said it so nonchalantly. It wasn't like we were in an argument. And I'm just thinking in my head, like, something's not right here. So that's when I started walking down the block and I kind of blocked them off. Like, you're not going anywhere, man. If you have an issue, we'll handle on business now, And
yeah,
it got pretty heated and all the neighbors, the lights went on, the phone started ringing, everybody's calling me. They realized it was me.
Wow.
So we just left it as, all right, well, I'm not going to walk down your block anymore. He walked away. So my girl's son had come out. He was standing like the house next to me. So I walked like 3 houses up. And that's when I started walking back, I started replaying some of the things he was saying. There was a few more words said. And I heard a couple I wish I would have paid more attention to what he was saying on the corner. But there was just things that weren't making sense. So I'm like, I need to find out where this guy lives. Because I know I had seen him before. So I jumped in my car. He went in the house. My neighbor directly next door called me. I kept him on speakerphone. So I went 2 blocks. By the time I found him, he must have saw me coming, like when I pulled my car over. So he dipped in between the 2 houses. So now I don't know which house he's in. I just wanted to know. It bothered me enough that it made me say, I need to know where this guy lives.
And as I understand it, Jimmy, when you heard that there was this alleged killer in the neighborhood, you instantly thought of him, and you said you knew it was him.
Yeah,
There's like another incident, right? Like, I only have a couple seconds left, but there's this other incident that Rex had some run-in with your wife as well. Can you just briefly tell me what that is?
Well, about 2 or 3 weeks later, we had left it. The short of it, we had left it that he's not going to walk down my block anymore. So my wife was walking the dog, and he had looked at her. She didn't know it was him because I just described her. She figured it out. She had seen that he just looked directly at her and then saw my car wasn't there and then walked down the block and I kept staring at her. But she never told me until after he got arrested because she didn't want me to make a big deal of it. But I felt uncomfortable enough in the situation. Yeah, the situation was bad enough that I told my friends where he lived, who he was, just in case something happened and he came back. So it was, it was enough for me to think something wasn't right here. And especially when I saw the house, I said, "Oh, that's the guy that lives in that red house." Like, So then it really kind of,
So
I didn't
Jimmy,
expect that.
Jimmy, can I just ask you just a one sentence, because I am really over, but I've got to hear from you in one sentence. What's your reaction to all the information we're learning from the courts?
Shocked, but not shocked. You know.
Wow.
Being
that says a lot.
Yeah. After the run-in I had with them. Yeah.
Jimmy Mack, I will be calling on you again. I don't think we're done with this story, but thank you so much for doing this, especially on a Friday night. Appreciate it.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you for watching.
I loved how when the neighbor talked about his confrontation, he said something along the lines of like squaring up with Heuermann. He's like, we can handle this right here, right now. And Ashley Banfield was like, yeah, as if she can relate to that type of interaction with someone. All right, let's do the colleague. You guys want to hear from the colleague? This one's around 9 minutes.
I'm joined now by Mary Shell.
And remember, guys, the daughter worked with Rex. So when we're talking about closeness and bonds and stuff like that, he had his architecture firm in Manhattan, and the daughter was working with him.
Mary first worked with Heuermann in 2007, while at an architecture firm that used Heuermann as a consultant on building codes. Later, she worked directly for Rex at his company, and she is now a journalist. We're also joined by Jeffrey St. Armand. He sells luxury real estate and once represented the seller of a property on which Heuermann worked as an architect. Thank you to both of you for joining me. Mary, let me start with you. What was your reaction to some of the horrors that we've been reading in the bail application, the details, the allegations that he was using a toolbox to torture women in the basement of his Long Island home?
I mean, it's it's nauseating. It's causes anxiety. I think at the same time, it's also remarkable. Most of the time, I feel like in these situations, we kind of have to guess what was going through somebody's mind or what actually happened. And, you know, it's incredible to see just an itemized list, self-critique almost. It's really something.
Does it square at all, Mary, with the man you worked with? Like when you see these lists and this just sickening display of alleged torture, murder, dismemberment, dumping of real people, does it square with the guy you knew? Does it square with the Rex that you worked with?
No, of course not. You know, however he was in his day-to-day professionally, we never would have imagined that this is what he was out doing in his spare time while his wife was on vacation. At the same time, it's organized, it's thoughtful, it's got references to books and other killers. So this is somebody who's detail-oriented, meticulous. I think it's quite believable and in line with his personality in that sense.
Jeffrey, did you ever notice if Rex treated the women around you differently in the workplace?
Well, I could speak to like my interaction with Rex, and that was with my client and another colleague as we were trying to sell a property that he was the architect on. And it got a little contentious with him and the man initially. And then at one point, because there was so much confrontation between the two of them, my client that knew Rex well, and I met Rex as well, he was becoming a completely different person, is what she told me. She was a little bit taken aback by how aggressive he was. Now, granted, you know, there was some complications with this transaction and kind of made it a little bit more of a challenge, but you know, the fact that he wanted things done a certain way, and if you didn't follow in line, he would, you know, let it be known that he was upset about it. And so just to go back to your previous question, looking at that, you know, all the details in the indictment and him being so meticulous, we got to remember, this is, you know, one of the top architects in the country, quite frankly. He's, you know, a top commercial and residential architect. And if that's a microcosm of him wanting things done his way, I can see, and this may be a bit of a stretch now, but in retrospect, I can see him having like specific details on what to do to make sure that he doesn't leave any evidence behind. So I'm not surprised by that, to be honest.
Did you ever have a weird feeling from him, Jeffrey, ever? Like just anything? Did anything stand out where it was just awkward, uncomfortable, or unpleasant?
Yeah, I would say that the interaction, because we had to get some permits, and I don't want to get too much into the minutia of like the whole real estate transaction, but we had to get some permits approved, and he had to do extra work. And if anyone was questioning what he was doing, he made it. He was very upset about it. So much so to the point that I remember my client said, "I'm not talking to Rex ever again. I'm done with Rex." And it was that she thought was really odd, as well as the fact that, you know, when you're trying to sell a property, the likelihood of the architect wanting to purchase the property from the client, that never happens. And he was adamant about, I want to buy it. I want to buy it. And so now you could, you know, put a lot of different pieces together and maybe have some thoughts on what he could have been considering doing with the property. But nonetheless, that to both of us, both my client and myself, that was a red flag. Like, why is this guy all of a sudden want to buy this property? So that was a little bit bizarre. A little bit bizarre.
Mary, talk to me a little bit about the kinds of people he hired around the office, and certainly with the, you know, the perspective and the lens you look through now, whether things are starting to make a little more sense.
He certainly hired a lot of women. Most of the staff were women, and I know myself, other colleagues. You know, it's like we might be newer to the industry. We might have been younger and just having less professional experience. And I think that helped him maintain a certain power dynamic, you know, where he is training you, he's signing your paychecks, he's in charge, he's the boss. And I'm sure I'm sure that it really kind of inflated his ego as well.
I think I read somewhere that he mostly staffed women who were small, petite. Is that true?
There were at least 3 or 4 of us that I would put in that category. You know, yeah, I mean, that was a thing.
It was a thing. Well, in the documents, go ahead, Jeffrey.
Sorry, I'll just say this, that when we were ultimately about to close on this property, there was a woman that kind of fit that criteria, one of the attorneys, one of the associates there. And she had to speak to Rex directly because he needed some final payment that was done. And he was very, very aggressive. And just to go back to your question about how did he treat men differently from women, and she was so uncomfortable that she did not want to be in the office alone when he came back to pick up this check. And so the partner of the firm was, that's fine, I will be there. And then I guess he must have sent something because Rex then came to their office with his daughter to maybe try to, you know, deflate the tension that was there. But it was a very odd feeling from her, and she communicated that to me directly. And now in retrospect, she told me that.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating. I mean, certainly fascinating. The documents that were filed with the court suggested that he wanted petite, smaller women, easier to manhandle, maneuver, and maybe knock out. Mary, one thing that has sort of stuck with me, I can't get my head around it, and maybe with your wisdom you can help solve this. The documents are riddled with the most childish spelling mistakes. I mean, heavy, H-E-V-E-Y, torture, T-O-U-R-T-U-R. I mean, just all sorts of really bad, destroyed, D-I-S-T-R-O-Y, and there are multiple times where they're spelled like this. Organized, I mean, look at it, he can't even read organized. Was he like this in the office? Was he a terrible speller? Does this look like his handiwork?
No, I think the most likely explanation for that is that he may have been using a speech transcription software, perhaps an early version that was around, I think, as early as you know, the late 90s, early 2000s. So I think that that's probably what that is. But there's no way that he himself would have had that kind of error riddled. You know, he's a very per his former employees, he is meticulous, well-spoken. He wouldn't tolerate even looking at something like that. He wouldn't write something up like that.
That is fascinating, because I have also wondered if this is his work, if he was just writing quickly and was excited and didn't correct the mistakes on the fly. But to both of you have been so helpful. Mary Schell and Jeffrey St. Heuermann, thank you so much for being on. I think I'm going to call you again as we begin to, get even deeper insight into.
All right, of course. I think we've covered enough tonight. I need to go decompress. I'm sure you guys need to as well. Just reading your guys' comments. Could it have been typos? Some people were saying that he might have purposely misspelled things. I don't know. I'm sure Dr. Gary has a whole explanation for it. But I appreciate you guys kind of listening to all this. I did not know that we were going to jump down this rabbit hole of, I mean, I knew what the bail application entailed, but I had no idea what John Ray was going to really get into. So that was just very unsettling, but I'm happy that you guys were all here for it with me. I hope everybody is able to go decompress after this live stream and everything that we just consumed. I might need to watch like a Disney movie or something because I can't go to bed with those images and thoughts in my head, but that's true crime for you. And we'll be following this case. And yeah, that's a good question. How is Victoria's spelling? I was wondering that too. Like, could he have asked her to type out some of this stuff? Not sure, but either way, we're going to keep on this story, and John Ray, I'm sure, will come out with more information as he unveils it. And I appreciate everyone. Yes, it was disturbing. Sorry, Roxanne, but it was better than last night's live stream with that annoying neighbor for Sebastian Rogers case. After we ended last night's live stream, I was like, that literally got us nowhere, but we kept his name and face out there, and that's all that matters. So we'll keep up on this story. We'll keep up on Sebastian and other stories, guys. I appreciate all the moderators and just everyone being here. Hit that like button on your way out, and we'll talk probably tomorrow night. Let's see, today's the 13th. I want to do a Summer Wells 3-year anniversary live stream. Might do that tomorrow night. Oh, good. Day Tripper's going to go watch some Seinfeld. That'll help for sure. But yeah, thanks for sharing, and everyone try to sleep well, praying for justice. Yes. And let's pray that they unveil more victims tied to him, because you guys know that there's more and more families want closure. I still believe Shannon Gilbert is linked to it. I know not everybody does. Obviously, law enforcement is not there yet either. So either way, I'm seeing Seinfeld tomorrow night. Really? I saw him so long ago with my dad, actually, stand-up comedy up in Syracuse. So Syracuse, New York, he came through. Gosh, I don't even know what year that was, a while ago. But yeah, he's good live. So either way, we will talk soon, guys. Tomorrow night, meet me around 8, 9-ish area, somewhere in there. Really all depends on things at home with our little one. So glad Johnny is back. We missed you. We love when you're in chat and you're serving us some tea. And I really appreciate all my moderators and everyone who tried to track Johnny down, because I was on the hunt. And Teresa from Criminality helped me out a lot. We looked up his public information. I was calling numbers linked to him. And then come to find out, when I talked to Johnny, he's like, I never even lived in Arizona. Those numbers have nothing to do with me. I'm like, oh, well, I called them. So bye, guys. I appreciate you guys, and we'll talk tomorrow night. Bye.